Hi everyone. This is going to be really quick on answering some questions that were brought up about, yeah, that light is shining on me. Oh, looks like I have a halo on. Just some questions that were asked about the framing and measuring. And since I do it not all the time. Hi Ramona, this is just the framing. I'm going to do the Santas in a little bit. I got to do the line across the top and measure it out. But I had someone go, I didn't know that you could just, good morning, sweetie. Well, it's almost afternoon. I'm really having a hard time getting up. Like, I think I put the message because since I freaked out and thought that Christmas is on Thursday and it's on Wednesday, and I'm still trying to get my head wrapped around that, I decided not to take any pain medication and did the theory of if you get off it too soon, you start doing things because you think you feel better, but then whatever. So I had a hard time getting up this morning, but this is the yellow submarine, and I showed you guys how to frame it, and we're glad you're back and safe, and your brother's doing good. Hi, Arlene. I had someone ask me, they were like, oh, you can just have the frame made, or you can have the bits done, and you can put it together. And I was like, yeah, you can. My framer works with me because she knows what I do, and half the time I haven't totally finished everything. You're welcome, Miss Ramona. And I'm glad your brother is doing well. And keep us always informed. But back to this. So half the time I go in and it's not totally finished, but I've marked off where I want the frame. Now, I didn't bring the chart down, I'm sorry. I think that when Blackbird did theirs, they framed it a little closer. And I probably could have. But we were doing it on the fly really fast, so I didn't get it out as close as I probably could have. If I had already had it mounted on the foam core, then I might have done that because I'm working on the octopus garden and changing it up, and I'm brightening it up a little bit because it's going to go with this. This one is a present, but I'm restitching it almost like this because I just mixed the colors up. I didn't do everything they did, but I'm going to show you guys how I measure this. I've got another frame exactly like it that I'm going to put mine in, my yellow submarine that I'm going to keep. And then that will tell you how to cut your foam core. Now, some framers may not want to work with you like that. I pin mounted, and I showed that. It's on a YouTube, Ramona, and it also should be on my feed. I put it on my personal and my 2 business. I did that. Ooh, I want to say I pin mounted like on Friday or Saturday morning. No, I showed how to do the pin mounting late Friday night, and then I showed the framing on Saturday because I had to run out and get picture wire. God, I can't even remember yesterday, much less when Christmas is. But this is the frame, and so when I came into when I ran into my wonderful framer, who's Kimberly at Frame Up 2 on 120. Of course, my linen was all wadded up like it normally is, and we stretched it out, which it's nicer or better if you have it already on the foam course. If you can sort of come up with dimensions before that, you can have it stretched, because even when you're pulling it and measuring it, it can be off a little bit, but you can make it work. But what I did is I knew I wanted about an inch. Sometimes I like to go less than that. A lot of framers don't like to do that. They'll start, oh, you need an inch. Half inch is not bad. Blackbird really frames theirs close. Older pieces are fine close. But anyway, so what we did is went from the edge, the furthest edge of the image that you have stitched. And then this is my wonderful, I got this on sale. It's from one of my most favored designers. I would love to meet her. It's Patricia Nash. I don't know if you guys know her, but she does a lot of things with leather. She has suitcases, and now she's expanded into shoes and some clothing and jewelry. But she's amazing with the construction of her pieces. It's not just the leather part, it's just her construction and thought process. I just think she's amazing. But anyway, when I went in, I'm going to move you guys over so I can see what I'm doing, and then if you guys make comments, I'll come back and get them. But what you do is a framer trick is to start on one, because sometimes the end of your measuring device is a little off. But I measured, this one actually is a 1/2 inch. Wow. Anyway, I think we did 3/4 on this. But I measured out a 1/2 inch on this one, so I lied. I still think that looks big, but I guess it's because it's 40 count. But we measured out a 1/2 inch, and then the lip, since I can show you this, it's not, the lip is, I think I'll just have to tell you instead of showing you. The lip is about, I'll show you, 1/4 inch, which most lips usually are. That's about a standard on a frame. I think sometimes they're a little thicker depending on what if it's a bigger frame that's going to go over like a painting canvas piece. I mean, those big chunky ones, I think the lips are a little bigger. I'm not sure because I haven't had one of those in a long time. I just usually do little pieces. But anyway, you measure how far out that you want your piece for the frame to be away from your image, which on this one is a 1/2 inch. I thought we'd gone to 1 inch, but we did do a 1/2 inch. It just doesn't look like it. I mean, I usually am pretty good with that type of visual because I mess with numbers all the time. I think what's throwing me off is the bottom it's slightly bigger, but not much. But the bottom is almost it's a little over a 1/2 inch, but we did like 3/4 inch all the way around the image. So that means that we came up with the original size, which I'll measure on the inside. I know I'm nattering on, I'm sorry. Is about 5.5. And then that's horizontally, and then vertically was, right, wait a minute. I'm starting number 1. No, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7.5. Because I took the 1 away, so when you look at it, it says 8.5, but really we're starting at 1, so we subtract 1. New math. So it's 7.5 across. This is just for the outside of the design, not the inside piece. So then going vertically was 6.5. No, 5.5. So it's 7.5 by 5.5. And then we're going to add a 1/4 inch all the way around. So we're going to come up with she cut it as 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 by 6. So that means that you would take a 1/4 inch all the way off, so that would be a 1/2 inch. Well, it's not 6, it's 8 by 5. No, 8 by 6. So it's 8 by 6. So the design, if you subtract a 1/2 inch, would be 5.5 by 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.5. So it's the design was 5.5 by 7.5. We added 2 1/4 inches on each side, which is a 1/2 inch. So that's where we came up with the 8 by 6. Because you got to take that inch off because of the way I'm measuring it. I'm quite sure I made that clear as mud. But if you go to your framer and you want to put it together or pen mount it yourself, and you want to get them to do the foam core before, like lots of times what I'll do, I've got white stuff on my shirt. This thing makes my legs, never mind, we won't go in there. What you do is when you talk to your framer, make sure they're comfortable with that. Some of them aren't comfortable with you doing it and then putting it in there afterwards. They like to be, it's a control thing, they're not used to it. And I'm not trying to say they're controlling, but people, when you do things like this, you have a way of doing it. But if you have a good framer that you can work with, they should be able to do this. But you measure out how far you want the frame to be from the outer edge of your piece, and then you add in the lip, and then that will give you the cut size for the inside of your frame. So that will be the size of your foam core that you'll cut, because you don't cut from edge to edge of the frame. You cut inside where the lip is, from that edge to that edge, horizontally and vertically. So that will give you, oh, my dogs are doing who knows what. That will give you the size to cut the foam core, and they want to cut it slightly smaller, because when you put the pins on there, even when you push them in, and you've got the fabric over it, it will be a little hard to get it in. That's why I like to sometimes wait and pin mount my item after the frame is done, so we can adjust the foam. Like, I'll bring it in and we'll put the fabric over the foam core, and we'll shove it inside the frame to make sure that it slides in and there's a little bit of give. If not, I'll have them shave off a little bit of the foam core. So I think that covered some of the most of the questions. And again, if you want spacers or anything like that, it's going to depend on the lip of your, how you just have to be careful and make sure that everything's going to fit in there. And like I told everyone, I don't do glass on most of my pieces. Every once in a while I will, or Kimberly will throw it in if I'm doing a piece that's private. We'll negotiate it, but I'm just not as enamored with the glass. A lot of the glasses now are coated, so you supposedly can see better and everything, but that's a gas. And I've read about some of the gases being released, and then my friend Mary told me, wrote down on one of the, oops, let's see if anyone's. So I had Mary send, hi, Rihanna. Sorry, I can't even read this morning. They, a lot of museums now aren't putting glass over the textiles, and they're not even letting people use gloves. They're letting you, you wash your hands and use your hands to touch the textiles, because they're finding that the soaps and the other things that are on the gloves are worse for the textiles than just touching them with your hands. And they're also finding out that all these textiles that they took off their original wooden base or whatever base they were on, that they're deteriorating faster than the ones that they've left in their original frames or whatever. So it's a learning process. I just leave all my things the way they are. Sometimes I'll open them up and clean them, or sometimes I just leave them as they are. If you see vermin or anything like that, you definitely, like moth eggs or something, or if you see where something's eaten something, you definitely want to open your piece up and either take a sable brush, a very soft sable brush, and brush it, or you want to, if you've got the museum vacuum, that's those tiny little vacuums you would use on a keyboard for a computer that has like netting over it, you can use that, but you're not going to use a vacuum because it'll like suck the piece up and really destroy it. But anyway, that's the framing bit, and then you would put this in, do your glazer point gun or either your framer gun that would shoot that in, and press your foam core down. Now some people will get another piece of foam core and they will lay it over top of this and shoot it in, especially if they're not using glass or anything like that. And then you put your cover on, and not your desk cover, which I always use some sort of wrapping paper, which you can tell my ring punched into the back of this, but I didn't replace it because I didn't notice it till I had already put the wire on there. So I'm leaving it, but you can replace them even with the eye screws in there. So that's pretty much the questions. If you guys have any other questions, let me know, and I'll go over that again. These again, and I've got some more framing pieces that we'll do, so I'll talk about them some more. But right now, I'm going to leave you guys for a little bit. I'm going to measure and put the basting line on my Santa is Coming, so I can show you where I'm going to put the clouds. And remember when we were discussing this earlier, a couple weeks ago, it seems like years ago, but it was only a couple weeks ago, that I started my piece, because I've got it right here, I started my piece in the middle when I really should have dropped, because see, I've got all this left. So my clouds are going to be really tight because I need to leave at least 2 inches for framing. So my clouds are going to be pretty close to my Santa. you can drop yours down so you have more sky between your clouds and your Santa. I also did mine on a 36, so it makes it a little off from the 32. On the 32, you can do, I sent a pattern for the clouds with the chart, and you can either make your clouds that size or go a little bigger, but just play with it. What I would do is I would trace them on other paper so you're not cutting everything up, and then I would lay the paper down. And you don't have to use the ones I have. You can change them around, or you can draw your own clouds. Imagine that. But you can do, velvet would work nice. Some of you guys got wool. I sent wool that you requested, or you guys said you had wool. You could easily do a cotton, but you're gonna wanna turn it under because it may not be tight enough so that it won't fray when you're putting it on. Because this is gonna be so small, I am not gonna use heat and bond or any type of interfacing to hold it down. I'm just gonna pin it and put it in place and then tack stitch it. You can blanket stitch or tack stitch it down, but I'm probably gonna tack stitch mine. But we'll get to that in the next video. But this is just answering and cleaning up some questions on the framing. And again, if you guys sent me a question and I didn't answer it, let me know. And if you need more information, we can do that. So I am going to leave you. Bye, because the dogs are whining and acting up. And I will talk to you soon. Bye.